Hey guys, Dave Toko here. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about Kamen episode 15. So let's start it. So the episode starts off in Sogo's house with Gaze trying to kill Sogo with a piece of bread, and his attitude in the scene actually really changes, and he actually tells Sogo that get rid of that belt in a way that is more sincere than he once did before, which is kind of the confusing thing in this episode. And after this, we can actually get to see that there's something attacking the city, and it's something called the dye machines, which are very large, and they're, I think, one of the biggest things we've seen in Kamen Rider. And they go off to fly to places and fly off to different parts of the world. And Sogo kind of tells everyone that he had a dream like this before, or a dream similar to what's happening right now. And it's basically that a bunch of those dye machines are kind of devastating the earth. People are dying, and it kind of cuts to this kind of black figure. You can't really see the face. He goes on to state that, boy, you are a natural born ruler, and that you will become a king, and your duty will be saving this world from destruction. And then Sogo proceeds to state that he's been having these dreams over and over again, and then a shot of these clocks appear, and like these golden clocks, and they converge together to open a portal, and out comes a golden kind of figure, and he goes on to state that his name is Kashin, the loyal retainer to Lord Omazeo. So you can think of this guy as kind of, well, a lackey to Omazeo. And he goes on to try to eliminate Gaze, and like he even goes him at a choke lock, or like a triangle choke. And they go off, both screaming Gaze to run away. This leads to a scene in the warehouse where Gaze tells Tsukimi that he's not really been a soldier ever since they got here, and that he's been relying on the fact that Sogo might not turn someday, and now, he goes back to soldier because of what happened. This leads him to try to kill CO, so that when the Search Hawk finds him, Gaze goes off in a killing spree trying to kill Zio, but he is then stopped by Kashin. This leads to a fight scene inside of a warehouse where Kashin and Gaze are still fighting. When Zio tries to help, Decade appears and tries to beat Zio. This also leads to Decade using build form. So in this form, he fights Zio in his build form, and this leads to Zio transforming into his Decade armor, and with this Decade armor he goes into build Sparkling. So in this form they both do their rider kicks, with Sogo using the Sparkling kick and with Decade using the base Rabbit Tank kick. Sogo manages to beat Decade, and upon kind of releasing the Decade card or the build card out of his driver, it kind of disappears, which is odd that this would happen because Decade would normally just lose, or not even lose, just keep the card after being beaten, but this time it disappears. This leads to Kashin trying to save Zio, and this leads to both Gaze and Decade teaming up on both Kashin and Zio. Zio even tries to state that he's not an ally, and at this point Gaze even asks Sakasagadoya for help. This leads to Decade transporting Zio to 2068. So he does this by opening one of the time portals, or kind of like the portals from Decade. Zio is surprised by this, and upon this, Decade uses his ladder to push Sogo in. This leads to Tsukuyomi also following suit. So outside, Decade kinda tells Gaze the reason why he transported him to 2068, and that he'd feel bad if he was killed for a crime he was convinced he was innocent of. So Decade kinda tells that Zio really needed a reality check. In 2068, Sogo wakes up to the statue which was featured in the first episode, and even sees like this commemoration for his first transformation. So Krimi kinda tells that this is the world that he ruled in 50 years after his present year, or when he first transformed. He kind of walks off to see what this era is like, and Tsukuyomi also follows. So we also get to see the first ever human form of Omazeo inside a kind of like a Japanese style room. And you'll get to see this further on to the episode. Omazeo even tells a line, and that, "You wish to see me, you born of my youthful days," which is kind of a cool line, and his voice is still the same as his Oma voice, which I'm calling, because both his rider form and his human form actually sound really identical. When Sogo and Tsukuyomi actually arrive to this kind of camp area with a lot of people injured, Sogo is very shocked at this, and even Tsukuyomi kind of tells him that they are lucky because this is really shocking information, and that the world's population is half of what 2018 was in that year, which is very shocking. And to think that it could have been increased, but now it's half, which is insane. Next, we can actually get to see the Ryuki dragon, or Ryuki's dragon, kind of appear and kind of start to surround both Tsukuyomi and Sogo. And after he like disappears or goes away, They arrive at the kind of battlefield area we saw in the first episode, and Tsukuyomi and Sogo are face to face with Omazeo. And they actually talk about dreams stated by Omazeo, and it kind of says that this is what I once dreamt when the world was still young, which is very odd of a line because Sogo didn't really dream this from what he keeps on declaring. For most of the times, he's accused of being a demon lord. He goes off and states of what happened in the dream, with that peculiar machines began laying waste to life as we knew it, and this is what we saw in the flashbacks with Sogo or his dream sequences. He even said that many perished, and he was there, just stood merely and watched as all this happened, which is kind of, you really get that sad feeling from Sogo at that in this dream he actually witnessed all of this. And then he kind of says what I said before, so I don't really have to go read through it with Omazeo, but he still kind of says the same kind of lines of what Sogo said a while ago in his dream sequences. Sogo is very shocked at this, and that he even realizes that this is the same dream, and it goes into this kind of black slate. We can only see Tsukuyomi and Sogo, and like the banner opens in front of Omazeo, and we can't really see the face of Omazeo, but it is very shocking to both Tsukuyomi and Sogo. I think both of them especially are very shocked at this because this is the first time that Tsukuyomi has seen Omazeo, and even Sogo himself, because this is the first time he's seen his future self as a demon lord. This leads to Omazeo saying that, "Why are you surprised, boy of my youth?" Then he kind of says that, or Zio actually says that, "Then I am really Omazeo." He kind of says that, "You mean to say that you have refused to believe all this time that you are Omazeo, or that you'll become Omazeo?" Sogo, upon hearing this, even tries to deny it, and you can even see the shock and even the horror in his eyes, or even his acting, that he's very shocked to see that all this is true. Omazeo goes on to state that it can and it is, and he even says that, "I wish to become king and bring about salvation." He even says at the ending that, "I am your future," which shocks Zio, or Sogo, I mean, to his bare bones, and even says that, "I would never do any of this because I was going to become a good overlord." This was his thing that he's been saying since episode 1, and now that it's been true, even Omazeo even says that he shall, or he will, and he even says that, "I am he, the most glorious and supreme overlord of all time." This leads Sogo to state that, "If that's how it is, then I'm stopping you right here, right now." And even this, he pushes Tsukuyomi away and transforms, which is very risky, and even uses the time charge of Force to beat him. When the missiles hit, an explosion enshrouds the building, and out comes the explosion, Omazeo himself, which is so cool that we get to see the full-bodied suit now. Upon what happened to him, Omazeo actually force pushes. This leads to Zio transforming into his Decade armor. He kind of releases a barrage of attacks, and this kind of leads to him using Kuga in like the Rider Hey Saber. He kind of summons like a itty-bitty kind of symbol, which kind of pushes towards Omazeo, but he's able to kick it, and out comes a much larger one, which he kicks back, much more powerful and larger, which kind of beats Zio into the ground. This also leads to Sogo using in the Rider Hey Saber Kiva. So again, he uses the Kiva Rider Watch. He did the same with Kuga, and when it's activated, a bunch of bats go straight to Omazeo, and he actually corrupts them. He sends it all back to Zio, and he even uses the Ryuki in the dial, which Omazeo also uses the Ryuki Rider Watch. When Sogo goes off to try to beat Omazeo with his sword, the Ryuki Dragon actually protects him by breathing fire and kind of hitting him away. When he's on the ground, Omazeo actually tells him something. "If you still refuse to become an overlord, then I will tell you the best course of action, and that he should get rid of the belt." Which he's very shocked, and he even looks at the belt, which is very weird to say, that if you get rid of the belt, you won't exist. This is very weird to say. And this also cuts when Sogo looks at his belt, and the episode ends there. So I think that's all I got to talk about in this video. So thank you guys